you play as many mobile games as I do, you've seen at least 100 of those fake mobile game ads with some sort of pull the pin gameplay, you know, like this one or that one or even that one. But today we're gonna check out a game that took that gameplay, that fake gameplay, and just turned it into an actual game in this episode 129 of my weekly mobile gaming recap series. Now, if you're new around here, welcome to the channel, by the way. Hope you'll enjoy this video. I always leave all the relevant download links in the description box, so go check out that description box if you like any of today's games. And I also always conclude at the end of the video which game was my favorite of the week. So if you like these videos, if you like this content, be sure to leave a like, and you know, you can always consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell if you want to get more of these videos straight into your YouTube inbox every single week. We'll get to that pull the pin game in a bit, but I want to kick this week off with something slightly different that I think a lot of you are gonna find really interesting, and it's a brand new game called Bombagun. And this is a single and multiplayer strategy card battler where everyone fights using the same deck and there's no pay to win or cards to collect. It's also set in the same post-apocalyptic universe as the indie developer's other game called Atom RPG, which I think some of you might be familiar with, and if not, that's a great game and you should definitely go check out that one as well. Now in Bombagun, we start by drawing 6 random cards from our deck, which we can then place on the board if we have enough resources. Some cards only cost action points, of which we gain 1 extra on every turn, while most attack cards also require food and house resources gained from playing defensive cards. And to win the game, we simply have to get the opponent's health down to 0. The fact that we have these resources add a nice new twist to the typical card game gameplay in my opinion, and the fun lies in strategically deciding between going on the offense to deal damage to the opponent and deplete some of their resources, or play defensively to build up our own resources so we can perform stronger attacks in the future. The game features both real-time multiplayer and single-player AI matches, but unfortunately there are no difficulty settings for the single-player mode and there just aren't enough players for reliable multiplayer matchmaking. The game is completely free to play though, with no in-app purchases or advertisements whatsoever. It can be played offline, takes up 105 MB of space, and it's a promising game that could be great if it had enough players, but it can still be casually enjoyed for its single-player or as a truly skill-based game to play versus your friends. I found a super interesting Archero-like game as well this week, by the way, so we'll get to that in a bit, but first, as promised, let's talk about the actual game Rescue, which is an indie puzzle game that, as I mentioned in the intro, finally delivers on that pull-the-pin puzzle gameplay promised by so many of those fake mobile game ads from big game publishers. So, to no surprise, the core gameplay has us pull pins and rotate levers to get any gold found on the map to our hero and maneuver lava and water around the map to deal with any enemies. But what did actually end up surprising me is that the puzzles and levels are very challenging and very well designed as well, with new mechanics that both require logical thinking and great timing introduced as we progress in the game. With only 57 levels in total, the game is relatively quickly completed, but there are more than 120 levels planned for later in 2021 according to the developer. The actual game Rescue monetizes through incentivized video advertisements and then a single $3.99 in-app purchase for power-ups that make completing a level slightly easier. Almost slightly ironically for this type of game, there are no forced advertisements though, and the in-app purchase essentially turns the game into a premium experience, which means the monetization is very relaxed. The game can be played offline, takes up 148 MB of space, and although the art style is pretty average and the UI, you know, somewhat mediocre, the fun physics-based gameplay is almost guaranteed to provide a great experience for any puzzle fans. I don't know how many of you guys recall this, but when Archero first released, it took no time for just so many other developers to start cloning that game just left and right. And I've actually played a lot of those clones here on the channel, but Roguelands is definitely one of the best large Archero-inspired fast-paced action RPGs I've found recently, and it features both level-based progression and light bullet hell mechanics. The main goal is to survive and navigate our way through level-based dungeons full of unique bosses and enemies with our preferred character and our favorite weapon. Just like in Archero, our character only attacks when we don't move, which means we need to carefully dodge the many incoming attacks while constantly looking for opportunities to stand still for a few seconds to deal some damage. Every time we defeat one of these enemies, we get some temporary XP, and whenever we level up, we get to pick between 1 of 3 upgrades that make us stronger. We also gain permanent XP and gold when completing a dungeon, which lets us level up our heroes and items to unlock new power-ups that are then added to the pool of potential upgrades we get to pick from when leveling up inside a dungeon. So that is actually unlike Archero, where we primarily get to buy some upgrades that are sort of permanent upgrades for our hero. Now, apart from the main dungeons, the game also features occasional side quests and events that sometimes enforce special rules like which weapons we can use, which helps freshen up the otherwise somewhat repetitive gameplay. The monetization of Rogueland happens through a few incentivized video advertisements and then in-app purchases for items that basically lets us pay to progress faster. There is also an energy system that limits our play session length, but although the game eventually gets rather grindy, there at least seems to be no hard paywalls. You can play the game offline, it takes up 254 megabytes of space, and if you liked Archero, there's a very good chance you'll enjoy Rogueland as well, because it essentially feels like an expanded version of Archero with more content, but the same core fun gameplay loop. It is a game best played in bursts of 20 to 30 minutes though, as that's where the energy system won't limit you. My favorite game this week has got to be the actual game Rescue, simply because of how extremely meta it is to create a game based on fake mobile game ads by other developers. I mean, that's just good humor in my opinion. But let me know if you agree or disagree with that in the comment section down below, and I'll be down there to discuss that with you guys. And then, until next time, just keep gaming, stay awesome, and I'll see you guys around. And I've actually played a lot of those clones here on the channel, but Roguelands is absolutely one of the best large Archero! I've re-recorded this like 30 times already.